let's welcome to the show, friend of the show, broadcaster, raconteur. I'm trying to think of words I can say. Podcaster, artist, Renaissance man. You know, any of those other things. Martyn Bomber Bradbury. Good evening, sir.
Comrades!
Sheesh.
Sorry, slight change.
Slight change. Oh gosh. I apologise, Bomber. I have no control over him. It's in his contract. He's allowed to do whatever he wants with the titles. How are you, man? We're going to get into a couple of things tonight, but brand new podcast starts tomorrow, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it'd be interesting to know how are the nerves tonight. How many more things have you got to check off the list before you're ready to go tomorrow night?
Having to throw it all together in a month has been a hell of a lot of fun. I'm really excited. I get the opportunity to do something pretty unique, the way I've always wanted to do it. I was originally quite pissed off with the way the working group ended, but in the weirdest possible way, I think it's been the best outcome.
It's strange how so often that does happen. In fact, I think I said to you the day after, the day you wrote this out, I was like, it'll be interesting to look back in 6 months and go, this is the best thing that's happened to me. So look, we haven't had you on since, although we did do a bit of a deep dive into it the day after. What do you want to share with us so people have an understanding? You saw what we did. Maybe anything we didn't share, or like one of the things that we were looking for clarity on was like the name. Are you not able to use the name without him? Was there like a contract or a written agreement, or is it more just like you want to now get away from that thing altogether? How does that work?
It's hard because I worked with Damian for 5 years on the kind of the working group idea. We worked together for 5 years, 2 years when it was on Magic Talk, and then 3 years when we sort of made it a podcast on our own. And when you work, as you guys would know, when you work creatively with someone, you create a body of work between you that you're both pretty proud of, and you've both sort of sunk time and energy into. Unfortunately, it all came to a screaming halt because effectively I wouldn't bow the knee editorially on the daily blog in relation to talking about the power nexus of free market intellectuals and their proteges and their friends in the media and the political sphere. And I'll stop being critical of Israel when they stop murdering Palestinians. And unfortunately for Damian, who was someone who likes to sort of set himself up as a free speech champion, it was my free speech that got him really offside with a lot of his mates, and he felt he was in a position where he couldn't continue allowing his company to sponsor the working group, which I think is that's a real blow for his own mana as a writer and someone who likes to think of himself as a contrarian opinion maker and someone who likes to challenge the status quo. And I think that's a real sad thing for him. But I'm in a space where I get to do what I've always really wanted to do from a very unashamedly left-wing perspective. The tragedy for me over the last 5 years is that I feel like I've been having a debate with a bad faith right that just want the pretense of engagement and not an actual engagement,
So,
and that was more apparent than ever before during the treaty referendum, principles referendum bill, where they wanted the pretense of a debate, but actually not a debate at all.
So this is something that a lot of our audience has always wondered about working with Damian. And can I just say, Arvids contributes a lot to the show with super chats here and there, but one of the greatest super chats that there ever has been has just come in, and it's Arvid saying congratulations on being cancer free, Bomber. That is one of the greatest super chats in the history of Super. Like credit where credit is due. So
I
we all
saw
congratulate you. It's such good news, Bomber, that you can announce today that you are finally cancer free. Well done. That is one of the great Harvards. Credit where credit's due. But anyway, so our audience and other audiences, I guess, have always kind of wondered, how does Bomber put up with that? How do you put up with that? And it feels like, and not being disrespectful, but maybe a bit late to the party, you'll finally realize the right don't want to have honest conversations, honest debate. They want their views thought, like, because I mean, what I tweeted out about what happened with you, and I told you about, is we've finally found the issue where the free speech purists will not defend the speech they disagree on, which is what free speech purists are supposed to do, and that topic is Israel. They won't defend the opposite views to them when it comes to Israel. Is it, I'm not trying to say you didn't know what you're doing, but have you finally come to the conclusion, or did you always know that and you're just now putting your foot down?
I think in these highly polarized times, it's really bloody important that we continue friendships with people who we disagree with. I actually think that's something that really matters. And we were mates. I very rarely agreed with anything that Damian had to say. And we would have ferocious arguments and debates on the way home after most shows. But I always respected his right to have an opinion. What was astoundingly obvious to me throughout the summer was that he didn't have the same respect for my opinion. You know, I was prepared to go there for the friendship and what we were creating.
Yeah, but hang on, Bomber. Let me ask you this, Bomber. Having friends and being mates with someone from the polar opposite view is very different from those people wanting honest debate. There can be two different things. You can have a mate in that area, but also recognize, I mean, like, respectfully, me and Chewie watched one of the Annie O'Brien episodes, you didn't use it, and it's very obvious none of that is honest debate. Right. And it seems that when we talked to Chippy, right, up at Waitangi, I think it was, and Chippy said to us, you know, when the right wants to work in a bipartisan way, what they're saying is, come and sign my document, please. Say you're on board with what we're doing. I just think that's so obvious. And I think you can be mates with, you know, person who votes for National, but then that's different from going, because we're mates, they are going to have an honest debate. Those things can be are mutually exclusive. You know what I mean?
Oh, look, they are. And I think for 5 years we were able to find that balance. But it got to the point where he was making demands of editorial policy for the Daily Blog, which I just wasn't prepared to make in the end. I mean, the Daily Blog has been out there for almost 15 years now. It has a certain canon, it has a certain following. You know, the things that I was talking about were completely within the wheelhouse of what a left-wing blog would be talking about. And in the end, I just wasn't prepared to make the kind of concessions he wanted. And it's ended, and I've been able to walk out of it with a much more clear focus about what I actually want to do.
Yeah. So tell us now, what do you want to do? What are we, hopefully everything comes back in the next 22 hours, seeing tomorrow night?
Well, I think it's going to be a very sharp sort of show. It will be very, there are going to be parts of it that will be quite serious. The one-on-one interviews that we'll be doing with the party leaders each week will be very, very sort of hard news focused. And we're still going to have a very robust panel for tomorrow night's pre-budget special. Māori Party President John Tamihere, NZCTU economist Craig Rennie, and New Zealand Herald columnist Matthew Hooton, and Chris Hipkins is our first party leader up. The show will be streamed out live across Rover, Sky TV, YouTube, and Watia's Facebook page.
Mm-hmm. Cool. And have we said the name of it yet? Because
the Bradbury Group. Bradbury Group. It's a nod
like it
to the great panel shows that I remember as a kid with very mercurial hosts, the Ralston Group and the McLaughlin Group.
Yeah. No, Bradbury Group's nice because it could also be some kind of financial institution. You might see an upswing in your KPIs or something. I work for the Bradbury Group. That kind of works. Hey, Chewie, what are your thoughts? I mean, we also want to, I guess, prod Marty on some of the news of the week as well. But anything around the podcast you want to know?
Look, well, getting back to Damian, he obviously wanted you to edit your thoughts on your own blog. Did he offer you editing rights on his column?
Well, see, this is the funny thing.
Is it not equal?
Well, you raise a bloody good point, right? There were many things he wrote about that I disagreed with, but I respected his right to have that opinion that wasn't my opinion. I respected, and I would never have dreamt of telling him what to write or what to say because I believe in those tenets of free speech. I believe that you've got a right in a liberal progressive democracy to hold an opinion that's not mine, and I want to engage in good faith to try and get to the bottom of those issues. And that was the kicker of the working group. It was a Marxist and a libertarian and the philosophical space and tension between us.
Yeah. On paper, could be fucking amazing.
Which at times was hilarious, and a lot of fun. But I'm too old to be mucking around with faux debates. There's too many bloody things that need to get done in this country, and I don't think we've appreciated what losing News Hub and News on Māori TV. There is so much stuff that's going. You guys know this. There is so much stuff that is happening right now that no one's picking up on because there just actually aren't enough bloody journalists. So the opportunity to do something for the fourth estate and for the brothers and sisters of the community, that's really humbling and an enormous excitement right now.
I think this whole situation that you found yourself in, and you've described it so well, is where we're at the moment. As it's like, well, I'll happily entertain a view from the other side. I can intellectually sort of go, well, not everyone's going to share my position. Maybe if you can explain where you're coming at it, I can still disagree, but I can understand it, right? But it seems in this space that we're operating in at the moment that it is us doing that, and maybe I'll come a little bit closer to you. Would you be willing to come a little bit closer to me? And the reply from the right is, no, fuck you. And we've lost something there.
Well, I think we have, and I think the post-COVID bitterness that many New Zealanders felt in the last election, where it was almost like a grudge fuck against Labour. There was so much irrational hatred towards Jacinda, and we've elected a government that we weren't sure what the bloody hell it meant, and the blitzkrieg of crazy right-wing culture war revenge fantasies masquerading as social policy that this government has tried to ram through as a response. There are going to be some on the fringes of the right who love this kind of blood sport and are getting aroused and excited by it all. But I also think there's a vast chunk of very decent New Zealanders who this is all just appalling, that they don't want a bloody race war against their fellow citizen. The idea that 200,000 working women in the poorest jobs are getting the crap kicked out of them so that Nicola Willis can afford a $200 million tobacco subsidy, $12 billion to the military, $14 billion in tax cuts, and $3 billion in a landlord loophole. I mean, I just think that's deplorable. And I think most Kiwis find it disgusting.
Yeah, it was fascinating on one of the news. I think it might have been on one news that I saw tonight, them talking about this very tight budget because they've got $17 billion worth of debt to pay off over the next few years. And it's like, $17 billion, that's exactly what the tax cuts, literally to the cent. And landlords, so if you hadn't have done that, there'd literally be nothing to pay back. Literally nothing. Yeah. And it's utterly frustrating. Well, let's spin it. Now tomorrow night's 8:00, yeah?
Yep.
Yeah, okay. Just checking in because some people are talking about the pre-show.
The BHN pre-show,
The pre-show
rides again.
continues.
That's
Yes.
that, honestly, guys, that's what it's all about. I'm an entree and an hors d'oeuvre to BHN at 9.
So you've got that
And a
with
moosh.
with old Nicola Willis and Van Velden as well. But also we hear today that that Te Pāti Māori, we're going to do this more as a story in a bit, but the most severe punishment ever handed out, and let's be clear about this again, because they left their seats. Because remember, some other MPs stayed in their seats and did the haka, nothing for them, but these guys left their seats. So they've been put on the naughty step because they got off the naughty step. That's the only thing they did. They left their seats. And so they're debating it tomorrow. And I guess, Bokada, Jerry Brownlee, he's basically said, because this is so severe, we are going to debate it. So bouquet there, but then, and we're going to close the public gallery. It's like, how terrified are they actually of what the public are going to say about this whole thing? Marty?
Well, they should be terrified, because there are many within Māoridom, many within wider New Zealand society who are furious and outraged at this disproportionate attack on these 3 Māori MPs. Their banishment will mean 220,000 New Zealanders don't get political representation. This is a liberal, progressive democracy. Our representation is sacred. Now, look, of course, in these polarized and angry and furious times, we have to have standards in our parliament. That is our most sacred of sacreds, no question. And people cannot be intimidated. Let's be very clear that our house, our democracy is too precious for that, and that's appropriate, and that's valid, those concerns. But the context means everything here, eh? I mean, the political right brought a race-baiting abomination of a bill to the very heart of our democracy. They brought war against the treaty into the very heart of our democracy. And what were Māori supposed to do? What were they? Of course they had to haka it. Of course they had to challenge such an appalling piece of legislation, which, remember, only occurred because Chris Luxon was so weak he got played by David Seymour. So they allowed this dog whistle racism to explode into our parliament. And what were the Māori MPs supposed to do? They had to haka. And I think that you've got to understand it within that context. Over 1 billion people saw the majesty and the dignity and the power of that haka, and to punish those MPs for it. I just think history is watching, and what history will see is a very white settler colonialism privilege coming from the Privileges Committee.
Someone said to me over the weekend, and I hadn't heard this before, so if you guys have heard it, you're better than me. Globally hot, locally not.
Yeah.
And that haka globally was hot. And we did a bit last week where Chewie kind of coined the phrase, when Māori people do Māori things, like the haka. And it sort of feels like when Māori people do Māori things, when it's something that's challenging, there is a sector of society that goes, oh, bad. And 50 years ago, they would have used the word uppity, but they don't use that word anymore. They go bad. But if Māori people do something Māori and it's nice, it's a waiata or it's a welcoming or it's something like that, it's like, even those same people are like, let's show this to the world. And like just the idea, I mean, that we don't, we know what our views are, but that's had 25,000 views on Facebook, and most of our videos on Facebook get about 1,000. So the idea that Chewie said about the Māori people doing Māori things resonates somewhere with a lot of people.
Absolutely.
And
And I think the indigenous populations have a similar experience. I mean, I was watching so many different people talking about that haka. These amazing, these Black American women who were looking at what was going on and sort of reading the whole movement, and it just gave hope. to, I think, a lot of people around the world that haka, that you can actually make a stand, and that we are a country that has the intellectual maturity, the cultural maturity to actually allow that in good faith. And I just think that the way that they are about to be punished, it will shame us historically. I think that we will look back on this and be deeply embarrassed by the punishments that's been handed out to the three of them.
Yeah. Chewie, I want to ask Marty in a sec about the upcoming budget, but anything else on this topic you want to wrap with?
Yeah, look, I said it last week on our show. I'd be interested in your thoughts on this. Is there not a better illustration of how Māori get punished harder than white people than this verdict come down on high from the Privileges Committee? And then at every stage, Christopher Luxon is just saying the most vacuous statements. Look, I saw the headline on RNZ. What have you done? There we go. We have to have rules. Christopher Luxon won't say if the Pāti Māori's punishment is appropriate. We have to have rules because apparently this is a binary choice where we just have full-on, no rules, fucking anarchy, or we send the leaders of Te Pāti Māori to the gallows immediately. Like, those are your choices, New Zealand. There's no middle ground. There's no nuance. We've got to have rules. The whole system crumbles.
Right?
It's like, he just doesn't understand any of it. And there's a clip that I'm going to play later on the show of him talking to just a pile of denim offcuts that has been magicked to life by a gypsy, Hoskins.
Okay.
You wondered where I was going with that one. I got a little bit lost
who are
in
we
the
talking
woods.
about here?
Got a little bit lost in the woods.
Okay.
Where he's quite happy fielding a comment from Hoskins about calling out the Maorification of New Zealand. And this is, like, I can't help, I can't see these things in isolation. I can't see the fact that this parliament, this government is so clueless on, or maybe they're not clueless, about harness haka going around the world and the absolute vibe that it's set on fire globally.
Yeah.
They got a lot of attention this way. So maybe they're not clueless on that. They're certainly clueless about their actions now and how it looks for those same people that saw that happen. And then we've got Luxon doing this. And then we've got the regulatory standards bill coming out. And we've got a bill that is going to strip more things away from Māori to balance the budget. I would bet my fucking house on it.
Yeah.
These aren't things in isolation.
You're absolutely right. And I think that one of the most important statistics I think I've ever seen in New Zealand was something a couple of years ago. 70% of national voters don't know anyone unemployed. And I think that we live such polarized, gated cultures now that the reason why the National Party is just going all in on anti-Māori, anti-treaty stuff is because for a very small subsection of their voting rump who they're fighting with the New Zealand First and ACT over, they all want to be the ones seen to be giving Māori the punch and the beat because they want that reactionary vote. And that reactionary vote's going all over the place at the moment. Whoever can be the baddest person to beat up on Māori. And remember, they don't have an economic policy, right? So this culture war revenge fantasy stuff is all they have. And this is the danger and the problem that Trump's MAGA people are finding as well, right? That culture war revenge fantasies are beating up on trans people or minorities. That doesn't pay the bills either, you know? So I think that's why we're seeing this kind of ongoing, never-ending blow after blow, because it keeps people focused on that rather than the appalling job they're doing with the economy.
It is interesting as well when you see the people who vote or support that group and then look at their legislation, like we had last week. I've looked for it again now. I couldn't quite find it, but something like 1% of people who vote for ACT between 18 and 49 are female. Like it's like single figures, and you kind of
Right.
go, oh,
Right.
okay. So what you're literally saying is the Equal Pay Act being changed does not impact your voters one iota.
Right.
So then, yeah. So anyway, hey, budget day's coming up, Marty. What are you expecting? Anything and any specifics you're expecting, or what's the general vibes?
Yeah, here's what I'm expecting. I don't think the political left have gotten their head around Nicola Willis, and they don't understand what Nicola Willis is all about. Nicola Willis is a wide-eyed free market New Zealand initiative acolyte. She believes, as a matter of faith, that if you cut back on the states, the free market comes in and does the job cheaper. She doesn't have an economic policy because the economic policy is amputate the state. That's it. That's all it is. And we're trying to get our heads around, well, why are they doing this? Why are they doing this? Is going to be so counter. No. The plan is to continue cutting back on the bloody budget. So I think we're going to start seeing where some of the real damage is going to come to our social infrastructure from this budget. Just as an example, Sega House, which is, there are not many solutions to mental health in this country, right? We have terrible mental health infrastructure. Sega House is one of the very, very few places, special places in New Zealand. I think there's one in Auckland, Sega House, and there's one in the South Island. It's 24-hour lived-in help with people with serious mental health issues, right? This is the place they go, they heal, they have an opportunity to actually... Now, the government's coming along and smashing all that up, and they're going to take the councils and throw them out into the community, saying, well, we'll deal with these problems out in the community. No, you won't. What will happen is all of those people in Sega House will immediately end up in crisis houses and in crisis services, doing damage to themselves or doing damage to their friends or doing damage to their... I mean, when you're getting to the point where you're actually actively vandalizing public health infrastructure, just so you can pay the bloody bills because you just keep digging... I just think this is going to be a winter of consequences of where this government's going, and we're going to see such terrible shutdowns of public services. Let's not forget, 500,000 New Zealanders use food banks every single month. And the incredible exodus of people fleeing New Zealand and going to Australia now, I think is... We're at a point where this level of damage to the system, there's either a change of government or we're in real trouble, because this stuff will get cemented in if they get another chance.
Very good. So I'm just looking up the website for people to tune in tomorrow night. Some people are pretty keen to find out, is it going to be a 60-minute hour or like BHN?
Yes,
is it going to be a 90-minute hour?
We give a full hour on the Bradbury group.
So I looked up the working group, and the working group got me to the Bradbury group.
Yay!
So
Must be working.
So is it the same URL? People who were following the working group will automatically be here?
They fingers crossed, that's exactly what should happen.
Yeah. All right, dude. Are you going to come along to our meetup in the first Friday in June? That's the other question. Friday the 5th or 6th.
You guys are coming. Isn't there an award you're coming to?
Don't talk about that. That's gauche. Don't, Marty. Yeah, it's
absolutely. My God, I love that.
We've got to make up for the one that you took from us.
Yeah, you bastard. Yeah, we're pretty sure that we're going to do Friday, and I guess I'm saying this to tell the people watching as well. Friday the 6th, somewhere in Central Auckland, we'll do a meetup, and you should come.
Oh, you have to. I think there'll be an enormous amount of BHN fans in Auckland that would love to meet you guys.
Yeah, so we'll do that, and we'll see you there, and we'll be tuned in tomorrow night.
Thank you, gentlemen.
And I guess now do you need any more merch, BHN merch to wear on the podcast? Like how
I'm
cross promote?
I'm always looking for BHN merch. It's the best merch in the country.
All right, dude. Hey, look, and genuinely, congratulations on the movement. Like, it's exciting, and like I know you know, that there were some people who didn't maybe want to come on as a guest and stuff because of Damian. They didn't want to amplify his thoughts, which means now I can't say, oh, we're kind of the only guys doing this because now you're our competition and we're going to crush you. No, I'm just kidding.
I'm already beaten. I know when I'm beaten.
All right. So good luck for tomorrow night. We'll be tuned in.
Thanks, guys.
And I don't know, we'll talk again super soon. And if we don't talk to you beforehand, we'll see you. I think it's only in 3 weeks, Chewie. We're up in Auckland in 3 weeks, I think. So that's close as well. All right. Congratulations again, Marty. All the best. And we'll check out tomorrow night. All right.
Have a good one. Cheers, guys.
Cheers, mate.